Part 3.
The forensic officer showed the officer a bloody envelope in a sealed plastic evidence bag. "Where did you find this?" the officer asked with urgency in his voice. "It was in the victim's vehicle, on the front passenger seat, under his body." "Thanks," the officer said as he reached in his pocket for his personal cell phone to make a call. "Hello?" the chief answered in a sleepy tone with a slight yawn. "Chief, this is Officer Patterson. Sorry to call you so early in the morning, but I think you need to go to the forensic laboratory to review something I found at the scene of a possible homicide." "What is this about? Can't it wait until I get to the office in a few hours?" "Not really. I am still at the scene, and there was a sealed envelope on the seat of the victim's vehicle addressed to Assistant District Attorney Kathy Maxwell Hardy." "What? Did I hear you correctly?" the chief asked in a whisper so he did not wake up his wife, who was still asleep next to him. "Yes. Under the circumstances, would you like me to send an unmarked police vehicle to your house?" "Please, and make sure they are discreet," the chief said in a silent whisper. "I'll be there in a half hour." The chief hung up the phone and attempted to get dressed in the unlit room to avoid waking his wife. Due to the early morning hours, the chief did not use his siren, only his flashing lights on the vehicle. He was in a rush to the forensics laboratory, as he needed to speak to them about what they found at the scene. As he arrived, there were two lab technicians in the office. What they found at the crime scene was their top priority. The bloody envelope with the handwritten letter found inside was checked for DNA and fingerprints. "Hey, Chief, over here," David, the top lab technician, called. "David, I got here as quick as I could. I was told there's an envelope from a crime scene addressed to my wife," the chief asked with shock and puzzlement look on his face. "Yes, I have it right here. I am checking it for fingerprints and running the DNA now. There is some dry saliva on the envelope. I am assuming we won't get a hit, because I can't believe the suspect would be that stupid, especially if he or she knows anything about today's technology." "Could the suspect have been that stupid?" "What was inside the envelope?" the chief asked. "It was a letter to your wife. Does she know about this yet?" "No, I want to investigate before I inform her about what is going on." "Here is the letter." "What does this mean?" "What is the connection between my wife and the victim?" the chief asked as he read the letter. "Could it be from a recent case she worked?" David asked. "This is what I need to find out and make sure her life is not in danger." According to the results, the blood on the envelope is the victim's. The killer's DNA is not in the database. However, the results confirm the suspect you are looking for is a man. There were no fingerprints left on the envelope. "Maybe we have some luck with the vehicle," David said. "If the suspect was smart enough not to leave fingerprints on the envelope, more than likely he didn't leave any in the vehicle," the chief said with a worried look on his face. "I will be checking the vehicle later today for fingerprints and DNA. I spoke to the coroner just before you arrived, and he told me the victim's throat was slashed from behind. If that is the case, the suspect had to be sitting in the back seat," David said, while handing the chief a sheet of paper. "What is this?" "It's a copy of the letter. I thought you would like it, so you could show your wife." "Thanks. I plan to speak to her about this, but first I need to stop by my office and speak to Officer Patterson." "You could try calling me by the end of the day. I hope by then I will have something concrete to tell you," David responded. "Will do, thanks." The chief left the laboratory and drove to the police station to talk to Officer Patterson. As the chief drove to the station, the fog was still thick, making it difficult to drive. It took him longer to get to the police station, thus giving him time to ponder who could have possibly left his wife a letter next to a murder victim. The chief was married to ADA Kathy Maxwell Hardy, who had been promoted to ADA 4 years ago. From the tone of the letter, it doesn't sound like Kathy's life is in any danger. Nevertheless, the list of suspects is endless, since she has put away so many lunatics. I would not know where to begin without talking to Kathy first, the chief said, talking to himself. In the meantime, there was a call on the radio requesting officers to the scene of another possible homicide. The chief was 2 blocks away and decided to take the call. When he arrived, there were several police officers at the scene, including Officer Patterson. The fog has let up, making it easier to assess the crime scene. At the second crime scene, a person jogging along the side of the road found a decomposed body. A man named Albert Sanchez is in the ravine, partially covered with branches and leaves from the storm last week. Albert's wife reported him missing last Friday. His vehicle was located on a secluded road about a half-mile from where his body was discovered the day he was reported missing. According to Albert's wife, he was going to his brother's house to visit his mother. His brother told the police Albert left around midnight. They had gotten into an argument about his drinking and driving. The brother tried to take Albert's keys away because he was too drunk to drive. Albert resisted and would not listen, then stormed out of the house. The brother tried to stop him, but Albert almost ran him over with his vehicle. Earlier that evening, when Albert drove to his mother's home, unbeknownst to him, someone was following him. As Albert left his mother's house, the person's plan was to orchestrate a fender bender. As luck had it, Albert pulled to the side of the road to relieve himself. A vehicle pulled up behind him and a person exited, walked up and stabbed him, then pushed Albert down the ravine. During the initial investigation, when officers found Albert Sanchez's vehicle, there was evidence he had pulled over to the side of the road, possibly to relieve himself. A damp spot on the ground was found and tested. The sample taken from the scene matched the DNA. The toxicology report proved his alcohol level was over the legal amount. Meanwhile, pulling up to the scene of the crime was the local news vehicle. The reporter heard the call on his police scanner when he was in his office. It was good his office was not far from the scene. He was there filming when the chief arrived. "Officer, why is the news team so close to the crime scene? Hurry up and section this off and move them back," the chief yelled as he exited his vehicle. "Chief, have you identified the body that was found?" the news reporter yelled. The chief kept walking without responding. "Hey, Patterson, just the person I wanted to see. I thought you would be on your way home by now." "Has the coroner arrived yet?" the chief asked. "Not yet. I heard the call on my way in and decided to stop and check it out. I just finished checking the victim for identification and came across this tucked in his shirt pocket," Officer Patterson said, and handed the chief an evidence bag with an envelope inside addressed to Assistant District Attorney Kathy Maxwell Hardy. "What the hell? Another one?" the chief said, and took out a pair of latex gloves from his pocket and placing them on his hands so he could look at the contents of the envelope. "Roy, can you get a close-up of what is in the chief's hand with your camera?" the reporter asked the camera operator. "I am on it as you speak," the camera operator replied as he focused in on the envelope and got a clear view of the writing on the envelope. "What does it say?" "It has the name Assistant District Attorney Kathy Maxwell Hardy." As the chief turned around to get into his vehicle, he saw the camera aimed in his direction. He saw an officer and told him to move the news crew away from the crime scene. "Officer, didn't I tell you to move the news crew back away from the scene?" the chief yelled, irritated because the news was there and he has not had a chance to tell his wife. "I wonder if the news crew knows about the envelope, seeing as their camera was directly aimed in my direction. I need to hurry up and get home before Kathy hears about this on the news," the chief murmured as he drove off. 88 Kathy Maxwell Hardy's alarm clock began to buzz. As she pulled the cover over her head to avoid hearing the alarm clock was still buzzing as she reached over to wake up her husband to turn off the alarm clock. As she felt underneath the blanket, she realized her husband was not laying next to her. She sat up, slid over on her husband's side of the bed, and turned off the alarm. As she resisted getting out of bed, she murmured to herself, I see Eric has snuck out of bed again without waking me. I don't know why he does this. Any case he works on, he knows I will eventually find out about it. Kathy sat on the side of the bed and grabbed her robe off the bedside stool while slipping on her slippers. She did a final stretch of her arms and focused on what to wear to work. After she made up the bed, she turned on the television to listen to the morning news. Before the news came on, she quickly jumped in the shower. She began humming her favorite song, Smile, written by Charlie Chaplin. Modern Times was one of her favorite movies. As she applied moisturizer on her legs, the news announced a breaking story. This morning we have some breaking news regarding a body found in the ravine. It may be that of Albert Sanchez, who was reported missing last week. This morning a jogger discovered a body in a ravine located a half mile from where the vehicle belonging to Mr. Sanchez was located last week. However, the police have not officially identified the body. Meanwhile, our cameraman was able to capture this close-up of what looks like a letter found at the scene, addressed to our local ADA, Kathy Maxwell Hardy. What? Kathy yelled, bringing to a halt the moisturizing of her legs and feet. Just then the phone rang and Kathy answered it. Hello? Hello, Kathy. Are you looking at the news? Kathy's boss, Marianne, asked. Yes, I heard, Kathy responded. What is this all about? Reporters are calling and asking all kinds of questions, Marianne stated nervously. She was concerned for Kathy's well-being. I don't know, but I will be calling Eric to find out. Just as Kathy was about to end the call so she could phone her husband, she heard him calling her from downstairs. I'll talk to you later. Eric just came home. Kathy, are you up yet? Eric hollered while running up the stairs to their bedroom. As Eric entered the bedroom, Kathy was standing there fresh out of the shower with a towel wrapped around her body, her hair pinned up and her hands on her hip. He came up and gave her a kiss on her neck while grabbing hold of her waist. If I had the time, I would throw you on that bed and make passionate love to you. However, I have some urgent news to discuss with you, so that will have to wait, Eric said. Eric, why didn't you call me about your case, especially if it involves me? I have to hear about it on the news? Reporters are calling my office, Kathy yelled. Just a minute, babe. You of all people should know that you are the first person I will come to when it comes to your well-being. I did not anticipate the news media would be at this crime scene. I came home as quickly as possible when I realized the news van was at the scene. I know you care about my well-being. It's just I hate when the media finds out what is going on before I do. Babe, the media is just speculating, whereas you receive the whole scoop, Eric said with a forgive me please look, then reached for Kathy's waist and pulled her real close to him. He wanted to make love to her, having no control of his manhood's response. Eric, you need to tell Leroy to settle down. Now is not the time, Kathy said in a sober voice as she broke away from Eric's grasp. Leroy is Eric's middle name, and the name Kathy calls his manhood. Leroy, down, Eric said jokingly. Sorry, babe, this is not the time for jokes. I have been on 2 crime scenes this morning, and in each scene there has been a letter addressed to you. Eric reached into his pocket, pulled out a copy of the letter, and handed it to Kathy. Eric, was the same thing found in each letter? Kathy asked, still reading the letter. Yes. Do you know what the suspect means? How are these killers connected to you?